Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Under the Hood podcast, hosted by Stallion Capital. I'm your co host, Tim Douglas, and today on the show we have Sheneya Wilson, who is the founder and CEO of Fola Financial. Sheneya, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Timothy.
Of course, of course. Thanks for coming on the show. And we always like to start with getting to know a little bit more about you. So if you could just tell us a bit about your journey into the financial space and a bit more about your firm, that'd be great.
Yes. So, interestingly, I've always had a passion for math. I never knew that I would be an accountant, though. If you would have asked me, 20 years ago, my aspirations were to actually be an astronaut. Like, I just was like, okay, I'm going to learn physics. I'm going to do this. So pretty much like while I was in elementary school and even in high school, I always excelled in my math classes to the point where like my teachers would ask me to teach the class. So I developed a passion for teaching also very early on. So pretty much fast forward into high school. I was actually able to finish high school like a little bit early, and I graduated when I was 16 years old. Because I skipped the grade when I was in first grade, so I went from first to third. So always been like a little again nerd when it came to school. I got to college and I actually went into college undeclared. So I didn't choose math. I didn't choose anything at all. I went to Morrisville State College first, and I took an accounting class in my second year. After literally almost failing out the first year, just because I have a very strict mama. And, I was like, okay, I'm free now. So I had a good time. But then the second semester, I started to take school a little bit more serious because, again, I almost failed out. So I took an accounting class and I had a great teacher. Shout out to Professor Beebe, still in contact with him. And I just fell in love with accounting. And he was like, I think you should major in this. And I was like, I think so too. So I ended up majoring in accounting by the time I finished with Mooresville because they only had a 2-year degree program in accounting. I actually graduated at the top of my class. I got an award for having the highest grade in the accounting department at Mooresville State College. So I went on to SUNY Oswego. I stayed for their bachelor's degree in their plus one program. So I was able to do my bachelor's degree in accounting there. Also, an MBA with a concentration in public accounting. Again, now because I love what I was learning, my grades excelled. I got 3.9s like my whole semesters at SUNY Oswego. And now I actually do sit on the board for the university. So really proud of that. It's turning my life around. But again, loving accounting. Of course, I was striving to reach the heights. So after graduating with my MBA, I worked for a Big Four accounting firm. I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers for a period of time doing audit. I was in their technology, media, and telecommunications department, which sparked my interest to learn technology. So I left PwC. Again, I took my CPA exam actually when I was in college. Finished all 4 parts before starting my full-time position at PwC. But then after a while, I wanted to go back to schools. People were like, what accounting, wants to aspire to get a PhD in accounting? It was me. So I left the Big Four, got accepted into a PhD program. So I was at Rutgers University studying accounting information systems. So now I'm kind of tying together my background in accounting, but now in the realm of technology. And this is at a great time when crypto was being introduced to the world and AI and stuff like that. So definitely loved it. During the PhD program, I got to teach accounting. So I taught Accounting 101. I also adjunct at different universities, which includes Baruch College in New York. I'm also adjunct at Queens College. And just, again, teaching and falling in love with the profession. At the same time, in 2017, I started Fola Financial. At first, it was like, a little side thing I was going to do. Let me make a Fiverr profile and just do some outsourced accounting work. But then I fell in love with helping small businesses, but more important, tapping back into my passion for teaching. So pretty much Fola Financial, we just don't provide services. We actually educate our clients. Our vision at Fola is empowerment through education and economic enrichment. So yes, we're going to get to the economic enrichment part. Yes, we're going to build wealth. But for you to feel empowered as an individual, that education piece is so essential. So again, it kind of ties into my background, falling in love with academia, being in the research degree program, tying back to my time at corporate, learning the high level essential skills that small businesses need to thrive. And that's pretty much how I created and grew Fola. And that's pretty much, what I've been doing full time for the last 4 years now. And we love it here.
That is awesome. Quite a journey. Thanks so much for sharing it. So I'm curious at Fola, are you primarily helping people on the financial side and grow wealth via saving on taxes, or are you also helping them reinvest that savings and kind of acting as an advisor as well there?
So we pretty much do everything. I feel like what makes our firm different, I know it's like a question that we'll get into, but is we take a holistic approach to wealth building
Mm,
because yes, people depend on us, but I always tell like clients that, your CPA isn't the one all be all to like your financial problems. So I love this concept of like creating your A team, which when I teach our clients, I tell them that your essential key players is your accountant, your advisor, and your attorney. Takes all of them into your equation to help build wealth. And with advisors, you can have a variety of those business advisors, financial planners, etc. But you want to have like a team. So I would definitely say that what we focus on is again the overall picture. Our I guess most famous service that we perform is tax planning because of course how do we build wealth the quickest? And it's not just about how much you make; it's about how much you can actually retain, so
keep,
that you can
yeah,
go ahead and reinvest that income in other avenues. But actually, what's fun about teaching tax planning is that the tax code actually incentivizes certain investments, right? So this is what we hear terms like opportunity zone or you being able to defer income for a period of time due to where you place your investments or what you invest in. So I feel like the tax code for us, we use it not just as something that we are required to file and stay in compliance with, but actually as a blueprint to build wealth in a more tax efficient way.
mm, I gotcha. And so when a client first comes to you and maybe they're looking for tax planning before you guys start talking about other kind of portfolio construction stuff, what are some of the kind of initial steps you take them through? Is it first like kind of an audit of their current situation? Is it more introducing them to some lucrative tax opportunities? Talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so honestly, the first thing is getting to know the person. I Finance is a separate thing from us as individuals. So number one is understanding their mindset, right? And also their background. For me, I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. So like my relationship with money, the reason why I'm so obsessed with helping people create wealth is because I didn't come from that. And now that I know these things, I'm like, okay, I want to share it with the world. So people's relationship with money that they had, when they were younger, down to the details of did your family have money conversations during dinner time? Did your parents, have sufficient amount of financial education? Did you budget and save when you were younger? I used to get an allowance for washing dishes and doing laundry. I would save that. I'm like, okay, I want to get this Barbie doll. And those type of things like foster the it fosters the actual way that our relationship with money is now. So it stems from that childhood. It stems from how you were carrying on with yourself. So we start there, knowing the person, and then we get to talk about their goals. So before we even get into academy, so you'll see your stuff. I want to know like what you trying to do? Because I find that sometimes starting with what they're currently doing, um, it can distract them from talking about their goals because sometimes clients think that okay, because my goals are this is why I have all these things going on. So I want to know your goal first, and then I want to know okay, like well, what pieces have you been putting into place to help you towards achieving this goal? What are the short-term investments that you're making, the midterm, the long-term, but then more importantly, like what you desire to be like your ultimate. Okay, here's what making it looks like. Though of course we know that there's no cap to how much success we can create. So pretty much that's how we start the engagement. And of course, doing an audit. So making sure that their taxes are filed up to date. If they're a business owner, assuring that their foundation is all the way together. So that's going to be bookkeeping. That's going to be just other compliance factors. And then doing an audit even of like how they pay themselves, right? Are you on payroll or do you take owner's draws? All these things matter. Then we get into, again, the personal finance side. Do you have a financial advisor? Do you have retirement accounts? Okay, you have all this net profit. It allows us to start thinking of a strategy that we can utilize based upon where you currently are, what your goals are, but also more importantly, what's comfortable given the fact that you have this unique relationship with money.
Mm, I see. I see. So it really is like making it very personal to the person because it's their plan, it's their kind of life that we're centering this around. So it can't be this cookie cutter strategy. But in general, say you get somebody coming who has a high income from a business, are there certain kind of tax strategies you're bringing to them first? Or is it really like, hey, we have to know exactly what you're already in and what you're already or what you don't know about and all that kind of questioning that we just talked about?
Yep. So with businesses, it's a little bit different because businesses are created for a purpose, right? And so we're talking about for-profit businesses. You're created to operate to be in profit. So that makes it very different from looking at the individual and their whole life versus taking a look at the business specifically. Because now, when it comes down to tax planning for the business, a lot of our strategies should be tied to business growth. So whether it's looking at, how we can get certain credits for hiring certain types of employees, or whether the business wants to own assets and now we can take advantage of depreciation strategies underneath the business. Whether the business, wants to, do business in certain areas or qualify for certain treatment, and even down to the structure of the business. Do we keep it LLC, single member and Schedule C? Do we S corp? Do we C corp? Even at the C corp level, based upon how you do business, should we create relationships with other entities? Like some of our clients, they have relationships with other businesses that they also own, whether it's a license agreement or a royalty agreement, et cetera, a management contract. So I love to tell my clients that, like, tax planning is like playing chess, right? The more pieces that you have on the chessboard, the more strategies that we can create. So some people get tied to just having like one entity. Okay, I have this business, I have this business. But then you'll look at it, and if you have revenue growth in like from 5 different areas, actually start to dissect, well, what are your top 3? Because maybe these top 3 need to be separate entities at this point now so that we can fully take advantage of maximizing the deductions. The thing about businesses, as I said before, they're created for a purpose. The more niche you are to the purpose in the business, the more tax advantages you can take advantage of, right? So the more general you have is more difficult. Why? Because what the IRS allows to be tax deductible is down to the ordinary and necessary rule. So meaning that the deduction has to be ordinary in that specific course of business and necessary for you to generate profit. So as you can see, thinking about it, if you have a business that does a lot of things, it's hard to pinpoint what's ordinary and necessary for that cause. So again, at one stage, we do look at, so I call it entity diversification in regards to the corporate structure to help our clients save when it comes to tax strategy as well.
Man, that was awesome. I felt like you had like 5 or 6 nuggets in there that were just really, really solid. And specifically, I like how you talked about the more niched you are as a business, the kind of more tax strategies that we can prepare for. And then that analogy to chess was also just very helpful because I also love playing chess myself. Now, I am curious where you go to kind of stay up to date with the latest financial strategies and kind of market trends. Is it specific things you read? Is it the news? Kind of talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. I definitely pull my information from so many different sources. So one thing, shout out to my mentor, Kalandri. I'm sending him so he can hear a shout out. But he reads every day, maybe like 4 or 5 a.m. he's reading, and then he just pings me all these articles. Okay, here's what's going on with Apple. Here's what's going on with Amazon. Okay, here's what's going on in the tax law. Here's what's going on with the election. Here's how this might affect the tax changes. So I definitely get, resources from people who spend a lot of time researching, which is like the mentors that I utilize. And then also as a CPA, I am required to do CPE credits. And as a CPA, you can pick what type of credits that you do. So, I've been doing taxes for more than 10 years now at this point. So like maybe now I do less tax law. I've actually been studying more business law lately, and other financial law as well, like getting into understanding trust a little bit more better and estate planning. So all these areas of wealth building, I kind of want to make sure that I'm fully immersed in. So I definitely take advantage of utilizing my CPE credits in areas that I want to improve on in regards to my business and financial acumen. On top of that, I definitely would say, we all kind of scroll here and there on social media. So the pages that I follow as well, I follow Business Insider, I follow Forbes, I follow CNBC, just kind of like, again, immersing myself in financial news. Like a lot of my timeline is financial news because I always want to stay up to date with what's going on, what's new, what's trending. However, at the same time, I've learned that what's not maybe seen online in social media is what's going on more so at the macro level. And when I say macro, I mean global, because a lot of individuals don't understand how much the global economy impacts our micro economy. When I say micro, I mean the United States. So we're complaining about interest rates. We're complaining about these things. Well, what type of factors globally are contributing to why the U.S. is a corporation? What else is going on in the rest of the world that's influencing why this corporation is making these corporate decisions? So again, I read everything.
I love that. I love that. Well, talk to us a little bit about given the current market today, what factors should we be paying attention to, and kind of what's high level strategy to address them? And I would love to hear it, not just from the national perspective, but if you can weave some international stuff in there to help us understand that kind of larger financial climate, that would be great.
Of course. So, at the basics, always is interest rates. We always hear about Feds are raising the rate or reducing the rate, and there's that. So number one, understand like, well, what does that mean? Some of the clients that I work with, like they're intimidated to jump into certain investments because of the rates. Now, I always tell them, if you look at the long-term chart for like most markets, in the long run, things typically are always going to grow. So it's like, okay, yeah, you may get in now with a little bit of a high rate, but then what's your investment strategy? Is it appreciation or is it earning more passive income, and specifically about real estate? Because of course, once the rates continue to drop, you can always refinance into a lower rate. So it's like, don't cheat yourself out of getting into an investment because of how the market currently looks, because the market is always going to change. So all you need to focus on is your investment strategy, and being specific and direct about that. At the international level, I would definitely say definitely rates, but now we're talking about exchange rates. So even thinking about where we're investing in, and then even looking at the trends of how some of these corporations are moving in these international markets. So sometimes, for example, when we hear news about big corporations doing layoffs in the United States, well, where are the employees coming from? Now I'm curious, okay, are they outsourcing, are they moving their headquarters to India, or are they moving their headquarters somewhere in Europe? Because then if you look at what's going on, sometimes like in European markets, we complain about housing and real estate being too expensive in America. Meanwhile, countries like Italy are doing, eventually, I think they promoted like you can buy a home for $1. So it's like expanding your appetite in regards to location risk. A lot of people, when we talk about risk management, we're talking again about things like rates and the type of investments, but like what can also limit us is confinement to a location. Because we're comfortable here in the United States, we may not be thinking about taking advantage of $1 homes in Italy, or getting a $10,000 grant to move to a specific place in France. But these type of opportunities happen. So, as I said before, it's really about just really the person, because that will let us know if they're that type of risk taker to expand that far, or if they want to stay more domestic. However, I do believe that the lack of comfortability just comes from lack of information. So this is why I like listening to podcasts like this and just reading and just figuring out what's going on, maybe making some local friends. We connect with anybody on Instagram and Facebook now and seeing what's going on in other areas. So if the U.S. isn't the best, place that you want to invest to get the most returning investment, well, think about going somewhere else and getting, more bang for your buck at the same time.
I am still stuck on $1 homes in Italy. Expand on that a little bit for me, like these investment opportunities in these other countries. Do you know why? Are they just not having enough population growth right now? Are people leaving, and so they're trying to entice people to come?
That's exactly what it is. So there are certain countries that are thriving off of expat communities. If you really think about it, the country that also thrived the most from expats is America. Look at our population and how diversified it is. We have people from everywhere in America, right? And then at this point, if you think about human capital, like, not to say that we're saturated here, but again, we have to maneuver a little bit differently now because we, continue to allow immigration, which is a beautiful thing. It creates, it creates this beautiful melting pot that we all know as America. So there are certain countries that are also benefiting from expat communities. A great example that I love to share is Mexico. So I recently went to Tulum. I usually do like a 2 week end of year solo trip by myself. This year I decided to go to Tulum, and I realized that most of, because I'm asking the locals, like, okay, who owns this restaurant? Who owns this? I'm just always learning. I'm a sponge. And you'll be so a lot of them are owned by foreigners, whether they're from America or whether they're from Europe or anywhere else in the world. But a lot of the businesses that are thriving right now in Tulum aren't even owned by Mexicans, and that blew my mind. It kind of like again had me thinking again. You don't have to think America. So yeah, so countries like Italy or France, when you see these promotions, typically it's to help create economic stimulation, right? Because where people go, typically again if they're more entrepreneurial, so there's even some specific programs for entrepreneurs, and they call like the nomad programs, where you can even get certain visas specifically if you are a digital entrepreneur. So again, you just want to look at, well, again, do these incentives align with what I want to do, or am I a risk taker enough to just try something new? Because why not, right? You can always go backwards there. That's easy.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's very true. Well, that's interesting because I heard about cheaper homes abroad, not quite the $1 ones or the grants to move to a spot. Now, I will say, my brother-in-law and my sister were getting a grant to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think they were paying people 10 grand to
Yeah.
move there. So it definitely does happen. Now, I'm curious to hear a bit more about confinement. You said when we're looking at risk management, we don't often account for how confinement can um, inhibit us, if you will. So, talk to us more about your perspective on risk and how you look at it given the current state of the market.
Yes, I honestly think that the current state of the market should be probing more people to look at how can I think outside of the box, and that box being confinement. Because of course, when it comes down to wealth creation, there's our certain safe investments. Okay, retirement, real estate, bonds, equity, commodities, etc., etc. And there's like a fixed thing, but then there's just like everything is an asset in this world, like and everywhere there's assets in this world. So just thinking more broadly, as what I would say about just like confinement, which kind of like leads into human beings just needing to be a little bit more like connected and in touch, not just online where you can see people, but like, well, what's going on where you live at, and how can I invest in this? Because of course there are a lot of places around the world where economic development is essential for their economies to recover from past trauma or past wars or past whatever. And if we care strongly about so many issues, I always say, look, put your dollar where your mouth is, right? And it's not just about supporting the causes through not-for-profit organizations, but again, if you are a business owner, why not bring your business to a place where that business number one is needed, but then more importantly, because you're employing people in that country, you're now again contributing to their gross domestic product because they have productive individuals, and the trickle down effect is just so massive. You educate one person, you are able to provide financial support to one person. Now they're taking care of their families. Their families are better off. And it's just like now there's this huge compound effects just by you making a decision to put your money, again, to a cause or a place where you care about a little bit more. And of course, that's going to stem from just doing the right research, making the right connections, but then also just you know, not being so scared to do outside of the box investments. And I think it also gives you a chance to invest in places that are also more near and dear to like your heart and like what type of impact that you want to leave in this world as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that perspective. And I'm curious, um, when it comes to investing or doing business in those places, you said it takes research, it takes relationships, but are you speaking about taking your dollars and investing in small businesses there, or literally starting another kind of branch of your own business if you have one? To kind
You
of
can do either
elaborate on that.
or. So a lot of like are more like high wealth clients, even if you don't want to be super involved. Okay, I want to be passive in this thing. You can look at investing in private equity. You can look at just again being a more passive investor, but specifically looking at firms or funds that support the areas that you want to invest in, right? Rather than you doing it yourself. Then also at the same time, you can also go abroad and take a risk and just do it yourself. As I said before, going to Tulum, you'll be again. I was so shocked. I'm like, these people are thriving. I'm like, oh, the owner I'm meeting, I'm sitting down eating by myself. So the owners naturally come. Oh, where are you from? It's like, I'm from the Bronx. And I'm like, where are you from? Amsterdam. Oh, wow. Yeah, I've been here for 10 years. It's been great. I get to go to the beach every day. I love it here. Business is going great. So again, like there's, as we know with investment, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. So like, yes, getting up and leaving and stepping out of your comfort zone is very, very uncomfortable, but it can also lead to great benefits. You never know what's on the other side of like a risk, right? And then if you don't like it, you can always retract. Going backwards is the easiest thing that we can do.
Yeah, yeah. And research and relationships. How do you go about developing those in a foreign area? Like I'm here in Texas right now. If I wanted to go to Tulum or develop relationships that would help me start a business there, or move a business there, or invest there, how would I go about doing that?
That's a great question. So I'm gonna give a spiritual answer and also a more practical answer as well. So
Okay.
on the spiritual side, like before, for example, when I went to Tulum, because I was interested in moving to Mexico. Now I changed my mind, but that's nothing to do with Mexico. All to do with just now different goals. But before I went there, I told myself I'm gonna meet people who live here and gonna like tell me, about the community and how I live it. And that's exactly what happened. I get there, I'm walking by myself to get some breakfast, and I run into this woman. Coincidentally, guess where she's from? The Bronx. So she's on the Bronx. So she's like, "Are you by yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah." Even though you shouldn't say tell us to a stranger, we don't know. But again, I'm just such a optimistic believer that. So she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Trying to find some breakfast," and she gave me a breakfast recommendation. And I was like, "Where are you from?" She's like, "I'm from the Bronx." I'm from the Bronx. I'm like, "How long do you live here permanently?" And then she's like, "Yeah, I've been here for 10 years now." She's like, "Yeah, she said I had a building in the Bronx. I sold it after like I had this accident and I just wanted to change my life. I've been here for 10 years." And then she put me in a WhatsApp group which has like 500 plus people that live in that area. And a lot of them are business owners, entrepreneurs, or just people who again provide services through the work that they do. But it's a community there. So again, you never know what you'll get by opening yourself up. Again, that's just all I did was have the thought, and now I'm still in the WhatsApp group, communicating, meeting friends, because I do taxes. So I'm like, if y'all need your international taxes done, holla at your girl. There's that. And then just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Now, on the more practical side, like it's just as simple as figuring out meetups. A lot of times I Google international conferences. I go to a lot domestically, but I'm like, why not go to one in Dubai? Like, why not go to one in Europe? Why not go to one in South America? You never know who you're going to meet. You just never know. So just again, putting yourself out there through conferences, through any type of meetups. I know in Tulsa they actually have a bunch of those meetups for startups, like where it's just a coffee day. You come to the specific cafe, everybody's in there working and talking and networking. So really getting yourself out there, because through relationships, a lot of that research work actually will be also done for you, right? Because the people who are already involved in certain initiatives, they're gonna know the juice. They're gonna know that, okay, I tried this, these things didn't work. So even though I know you researched this, don't waste your time doing this, because here's what type of outcomes that you can have. So they really do go hand in hand, because at the same time, some people also tell you not to do things because it didn't work out for them. However, it doesn't mean that it won't work out for you. I also believe in that. But research and relationships definitely do go hand in hand. Additionally, when it comes to research, research the political climate of that country as well is very, very important, to see what's going on, who's the leader, what's the leader's vision for that country, right? Because even if they're doing great right now, if they just got a new president, and this person is a little bit more aggressive in their thinking, you may not get the same outcome that somebody who was there 10 years ago under a new regime, that we're able to get. So it's a lot that goes into it. It's political research, it's economic research, even down to the social research. Like, how are the current people in that country living? Because of course, if they're living more in poverty, then you have a little bit more risk in regards to just like societal impacts of, like, again, you decided to do business there, because some locals, because their economy is not doing so well, they may not support your business because you're a foreigner coming over here trying to take our coins. We ain't even got that much coins, you know? So again, there's so much that goes into it. Definitely immersive learning is going to be your greatest teacher.
Mm. Immersive learning. I like that. And specifically the putting yourself out there, in unique ways. You just go there, you meet somebody, now you're in a group of 500 people, or you go to conferences. I think that's a really nice tip there. And let's take it back, I guess, into confinement, if you will. So we've talked a little bit about risk. We've talked a little bit about what to pay attention to in the current market. Let's talk more about when you're constructing a portfolio or when you're looking at your investments. What's the difference right now in the market between a portfolio geared towards asset accumulation and then a portfolio geared more towards that income?
Got it. So yes, obviously in the win-win we want both, right? We want to accumulate assets, also have income. However, not all investments are going to give you that type of return. It is what it is. Like real estate, that's always a sweet spot. So it's like at a minimum, I do feel like people should have a good portfolio of real estate, to where you can get both. You can accumulate assets. Through appreciation that allows you to accumulate even more assets, because now you can take equity out, as long as you still have profit, because some people take out too much equity and now your mortgage is high and now you don't have that much passive income anymore. It's a numbers game.
And you had that floating rate in 2020 and then you got caught.
And got caught and they're like, "Oh, this is expensive now. I'm only taking home $100 a month. I can't refinance. Now I'm going to be in the negatives." But again, this is why having, even in an asset class, having diversification of those asset types is also important. So if we talk about real estate, okay, maybe your single family properties aren't eligible for, to take out equity, but maybe the commercial properties do a little bit more because you're able to get some type of like commercial lease that you can like lean against, etc. So having diversification within your asset classes are also very important. And then to answer your question, I also believe that when it comes down to having these investment types, you want to think about just how your investments are related to each other. So I guess that kind of leads into the conversation back to like diversification within that thing, as well. So like if real estate isn't doing well, so then where do you put your money at? Because interestingly, once real estate is more expensive and just borrowing is more expensive, guess what you get more benefit from? Saving. So sometimes, okay, if you don't want to take too much risk, then maybe you just take advantage of the fact that banks, high yield savings accounts, those rates are up to, I think, 5.5. CDs, you can do a 14-month CD for 5.5%, etc. So it's really taking advantage of like also what's going on, because then sometimes then again commodities might be a little bit more on sale. So I guess really the answer is like scanning to see where you can get the most bang for your buck at the end of the day. So if real estate's too expensive, I don't want to do that. Okay, then maybe let me buy some gold, let me buy some silver. When that appreciates, I can now have access to like re-leverage, because then leverage is also a very essential part of wealth building. So you can accumulate here and there. For clients that don't want to jump into asset accumulation on that end, then maybe they may invest in like real estate investment trusts, so like REITs, etc. And starting small. So because when I'm speaking, I don't want to just give the perspective to someone who's like very, very wealthy. A lot of our audience also are people who are new to wealth building. So like spending $100,000 or $500K on something, an asset, it may not be their accumulation strategy. So how do we start small? And that is when we think about, again, getting into equities, getting into REITs, make sure that your retirement is properly structured, and that at least you have a personal asset as well, like having a home. Like that is very important, because at least you have something to leave behind to your family, that's outside of the other things that you also will pass down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that kind of two-sided coin there. One, real estate, how it's split in the line. You get that appreciation, you get that cash flow. And then there are other kind of pure cash flow plays like CDs or real estate investment trusts. I like that differentiation there, and specifically scanning the market to see where you get the most bang for your buck, because it is a re-optimization every couple of months to, at least once or twice a year, where you need to be making sure that your portfolio is still on track to the goals that you are, trying to get for it, really. And so I liked what you said about real estate investment trust. Stallion's not quite a REIT, but people have come to us for that stable, consistent income, but you don't get that appreciation. So if you're more on the asset accumulation side, the only way you're going to appreciate with us is by reinvesting. So maybe it's better to buy a property, but if you don't like to property manage, bringing it back to who's the person, maybe they don't like to property manage and maybe they just want that real kind of passive income. Stallion might be a better investment. And so there's this kind of, you really just have to know what you want, know what your goals are, and then figure out which investment is optimal for that. And then the mix of income and accumulation, of course. And so we kind of spoke to equities a little bit, bonds, commodities, all the kind of normal cookie cutter stuff. And we've also mentioned some other investments. When you get outside the box of confinement, you have investments in other countries, there are private equity opportunities. And we do love to talk about alternatives on this show. So talk to us more about kind of how you're evaluating alternative investments in today's market.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it's really the same mindset in terms of the individual, their risk tolerance, what their goals are. I will definitely say that with alternative investments, some of the clients I work with, because alternative investing as a term, I feel like can also just be a restructure of your current strategy. So, like for example, I have clients that own commercial property, residential commercial properties, and like okay, you make 5,000 passively per month off of a 10-unit building. Let's think about how we can just further optimize that space. So what one of my clients actually is doing is turning that specific building into a living facility for like elderly individuals, because you just don't get paid per apartment, you get paid per bed. Like,
Yep.
so it's like you can have, three people in one room. Of course, it's going to come with an increased associated cost. However, once we did the numbers, it made more sense for them to just, to invest in the long term. It made more sense for them to make the short term investment, restructure it, because after a certain period, we break even off of our initial investment. Or it's a great way to leverage equity, because again, we can count for that increase in mortgage into that profit calculation. And it made more sense. They rather than taking home 5K per month, they'll take home 15, 20K per month just from this switch. So so I look at alternative investments like in that fashion. Okay, like it's sometimes also about optimization of the asset classes that are available, because not that there's a finite number of asset classes, but it's a broad range. There's businesses, again, we went through the rest of them. So it's again, how can we refine our current strategies to just make it make sense? But again, being open to something that's new, something that we haven't done before,
Mhm.
as well. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. And your specific example of, real estate, a lot of people would already consider that an alternative, but then even within alternatives, um, the play for optimization. It's not just, hey, let's go pick a new one. Let's look at what we have. Let's make it optimal. And residential assisted living is a great way to do that. So that specific client knows what they're doing. So-
yeah, just to also, if they listen to this podcast, this specific client also does nursing training. So for them, it's also not just optimization of their real estate portfolio, it's vertical integration, because now they can train these nurses and then staff them at their nursing facility. So it's like things like that is fun, because I feel like it's the creative side of business. Like people
yeah.
think business is so analytical, but it also takes creativity to create great analytical strategies. Think again, how can we further optimize not just our real estate, but the business that we have that is not, they're not attached to each other. But now, I said before, as a tax strategy, we can make them relational, right? And that's pretty much a great example of that as well.
Mm. And so we talked about the role of alternatives a little bit, which is typically the next question. It sounds like we like to look at it from optimization. Is
Mhm.
there another role that you feel alternatives can play in a portfolio, or is optimization hitting the nail on the head there?
I think automation is great. At the same time, it's just about also just hedging your risk. Again, you can have your safes, Then you can have the alternatives, because maybe alternatives are a little bit more risky. But it's also it's about like, okay, having like a hedge for your overall portfolio and your overall wealth strategy as well.
And are there any specific alternatives you're kind of really interested in learning more about in 2024? Not to endorse them, just to say, hey, this is interesting. It piqued my interest. I want to do some research.
Um, yes, I guess like one thing that I'm also interested in is, I would say private equity is a very interesting peak, because again, everyone wants to like be an entrepreneur, and it's like you don't gotta be the full business owner all the time. Um, for example, I know another CPA who had a passion for restauranteering, but she runs a whole great CPA firm that's thriving. And so rather than like, okay, let me open up a whole nother restaurant, she's just an investor in that restaurant. But again, you still get ownership rights and you still get these great perks. So that's one that definitely sparks my mind, because there's things that I also love. The good thing about being in business is that like you get to benefit from like the product services as well as being the, a part of the ownership team, like testing out donuts, right? Like just like stuff like that. So I would definitely say that's one that always sparks my mind, is like getting more into the private equity space.
There we go. There we go. And last section of the show here, we'd love to kind of come back to you, come back to your firm. We kind of already hit on that unique selling proposition. I'll give you the chance to reiterate it if you want to, but also tell us about what you think is most important to that ideal client, advisor, client, CPA relationship.
Yes. So number one, I believe that, again, what makes us different is that we're here to listen first and foremost. Not just shove information down your throat and overwhelm you, but will perfect give you the perfect amount of dissectable, digestible information that's tailored to your specific needs. So that's actually the mission statement of the company, is providing financial services tailored to fit the needs of our clients. Because again, your needs may be different. What wealth looks like for me may be different from what wealth looks like for you. But at the same time, we do want to empower you as an individual. I don't believe on clients becoming like your advisor, your CPA becoming a crutch in your wealth building journey. At the end of the day, like, God forbid that CPA is no longer able to work with you, you should still be able to feel empowered making your decisions. And that's why education is so important. So here at Fola Financial, again, we prioritize education. And what we don't know, we will research. And what we don't do, we will give you a great resource to get done, so that you can properly build your wealth team. But again, you can come to us as a resource to start your wealth building journey.
There we go. There we go. And would you say that educational aspect is the kind of most important part of that relationship, or would you add something to that?
Yes, I actually would say it is. It makes our conversation so much more easy when you can speak accounting and business language like your accountant, right? And it also makes us happy when our clients are educated. They now are sparks. They do their own research and they come back with another idea. Okay, I know you mentioned this, but then I researched this. And I'm like, oh, can we do this actually instead? And oh yes, now because you're educated and you're empowered, now they're bringing more information back to us, because even if we don't know what new information they accumulated, we can, okay, let's research and put this into your tax plan, put this into your wealth strategy. So yes, education literally is a game changer. We want individuals to be motivated to make decisions, and even if we give advice, to feel confident that their yeses or their nos are off of premises of knowledge, rather than their lack of. So
Mm, I love it. Well, Sheneya, I think that's all we got for you on today's show. Thanks so much for coming on.
thank you for having me. This is a great conversation.
Of course, yeah. And if people want to know more about you, where's the best place to go?
Yep. So you can follow us online, Instagram at Fola Financial. You can visit our website at folafinancial.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, just Sheneya Wilson. You'll see me pop up there. And also, I have my own website, thepeoplecpa.me, if you want to do any type of one-on-one work as well, especially for people who are passionate about financial literacy. Definitely connect, because I love educating the youth and just underrepresented communities, just those who aspire to build wealth, especially those who haven't come from it. Because I do believe that wealth is for everyone, and then people who are for the people are my type of people, and that's why, like, yes, I'm Sheneya Wilson, but most people know me online as the People CPA, because that's really who I care about, and it's who I do it for. It's all people. Let's build wealth together.
Mm, There we go. Well, again, Sheneya, thanks for coming on, guys. Thank you for watching. All the links to contact Sheneya will be down in the show notes. Also on our website, stallioncap.com, where we feature this podcast. You'll be able to find Sheneya's links there as well. And we'll see you guys on the next one.